U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has urged allies to support its efforts to squash the Iranian economy, saying Washington is preparing to impose what it calls the toughest sanctions in history on Tehran. The annual joint military exercises between South Korea and the United States are scheduled to end today, after being cut in half. And Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korea's leader, released a statement for the second day in a row last night, mocking South Korea over the scale-back drills. Korea's exports during the first 20 days of this month reached an all-time high for the period. Led by a strong boom in chip exports, the country recorded a trade surplus of nearly $14 billion in less than 3 weeks. The Trump administration says it's preparing to hit Iran with an unprecedented wave of economic sanctions and is pressuring allies to join the move. On North Korea's recent missile test, it said the U.S. remains committed to defending the U.S. homeland and added that it saw no immediate threat from the launches. Our Lee Soo-jin starts us off.
The U.S. is preparing to impose what it calls the toughest sanctions in history on Iran. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told a broadcaster on Thursday that the measures are aimed at collapsing the regime while urging U.S. allies to decide whether to join Washington's pressure campaign. Bessent said the sanctions could also reduce the need for major U.S. military operations against the Islamic Republic. His remarks came after President Donald Trump pledged tougher economic measures against Iran.
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. The blockade has been 100% successful. No boats have gotten into Iran, but they are getting in for other places. But we'll see.
Trump announced plans on Wednesday to further squeeze Iran's economy, declaring an economic D-Day in a Truth Social post. He also threatened major penalties against any country that continues doing business with Iran. The move comes as the war approaches the 6-month mark with little sign of a diplomatic or military victory for Washington. Iran's foreign ministry condemned the U.S. sanction as economic terrorism, saying they would hurt ordinary Iranians and amount to crimes against humanity. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi meanwhile dismissed Trump's latest post as a diversion from America's own economic problems. Separately, the U.S. military said it remains committed to defending the U.S. homeland and its allies following North Korea's latest missile launches. U.S. Pacific Command said Thursday saw no immediate threat from the launches. A statement came after North Korea fired around 10 short-range ballistic missiles from Pyongyang toward the East Sea at around 5 p.m. Thursday. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
The joint military exercises between South Korea and the United States are set to end today after being cut by about half. And Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korea's leader, released a series of mocking statements against Seoul, saying a single order from President Donald Trump was enough to scale back the drills, while also calling President Lee Jae-myung's words and actions hypocritical. Our Lee Eun-jin has the details.
Kim Yo-jong, sister of leader Kim Jong-un, released a statement late Thursday night through the Korean Central News Agency with sneering remarks against Seoul. In response to the scaling down of the Ulji Freedom Shield joint military exercises, she mocked that a single order from U.S. President Trump left South Korea in a pitiful plight of no longer being able to play war games. Calling the alliance a master-servant relationship, Kim accused South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung of duplicitous words and deeds, referring to Lee's expression of respect and gratitude for Trump's decision to scale back the drills on social media, while discussing self-reliant national defense and securing independent military capabilities domestically. While North Korea maintains its hostile posture towards South Korea, analysts have commented that Kim Yo-jong's latest statement can be read to reaffirm North Korea's stance of leaving room for its relationship with the United States. The routine South Korea-U.S. joint exercise Ulji Freedom Shield will end early on Friday after only 5 days, scaled back from its originally scheduled 11-day run. The August exercises are usually split into 2 parts, defense and counterattack. But this time the exercise will conclude after carrying out only the first part. Lee Eun-jin, Arirang News.
Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo held phone talks over North Korea's latest missile launches and exchanged views on future responses. According to Seoul's Foreign Ministry on Friday, Director General for Korean Peninsula Policy, Baek Yong-jin, had a call with his U.S. and Japanese counterparts, David Woolazol and Takashi Ariyoshi. The three diplomats shared information regarding North Korea's 12th missile launch this year and assessed the situation while also discussing future response measures. Seoul's Foreign Ministry added that whenever North Korea launches a ballistic missile, the foreign authorities of South Korea, the United States, and Japan operate a separate consultation channel to quickly share relevant information and situational assessments. Korea's exports are showing no signs of slowing down, reaching an all-time high for the first 20 days of August. Driven by an unprecedented boom in semiconductor sales, the country posted a trade surplus of nearly $14 billion in just under 3 weeks. Our Park Jun-an breaks down the numbers.
Korea's August outbound shipments have reached a record high for the period in the first 20 days of August. According to preliminary data released by the Korea Customs Service on Friday, exports from August 1st to the 20th stood at $55.2 billion. That is a massive 56% jump compared to last year. Semiconductors drove the rally with chip exports skyrocketing 198.8% year-on-year to a record $26 billion. The chip boom is so strong that semiconductors now make up nearly half of Korea's total exports, accounting for 47.2%. Other tech products also saw massive gains, with computer peripherals jumping over 240%. However, not all sectors saw an upward trend, as passenger car exports dropped by 45.1% during the same period. Looking at major trade partners, exports to China more than doubled, surging by 118.6%. Shipments to Vietnam and the U.S. also saw significant jumps of 67.4% and 59.4% respectively. Together, these three nations account for 52.6% of Korea's total exports. During the same period, the country's imports increased by 19% to $41.2 billion, fueled in large part by stronger demand for foreign semiconductors, chip manufacturing equipment, and crude oil. Because record-breaking exports vastly outpaced imports, Korea posted a solid trade surplus of $13.97 billion, signaling that strong economic momentum driven by the semiconductor supercycle remains intact. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
U.S. chipmaker Micron Technology says it will invest a total of $10 billion over the next 10 years to build a large-scale memory research center in Boise, Idaho, where its headquarters is located. The announcement on Thursday pushed company shares higher following a recent slowdown due to concerns about the durability of AI spending and competition from SK Hynix. Micron is the only U.S.-based company developing and manufacturing leading-edge memory, including DRAM and NAND products used across data centers, PCs, smartphones, and AI systems. South Korea's producer prices in July dropped 0.4% from the previous month as global oil prices move lower. Now that's according to the Bank of Korea on Friday, marking the first monthly decline in 11 months. Prices of industrial goods, including petroleum and chemical products, dropped 0.5%. However, prices of agricultural, livestock, and fisheries products rose 1.5% due to extreme summer heat. The Bank of Korea said producer prices could face upward pressure in August, with oil prices rising again and tensions in the Middle East continuing. Hyundai Motor's labor union has launched its first full-scale strike in a decade, shutting down all domestic production lines. According to union sources this morning, around 39,000 members halted operations across plants in Ulsan, Cheongju, and Asan after wage talks stalled. The 16-hour full walkout, the first since 2016, has pushed cumulative losses from strike action past roughly $1.65 billion. The dispute centers on union demands for a 50% bonus hike, reinstating dismissed workers, and extending the retirement age, which management rejected, citing a lack of legal grounds and rational justification. With talks suspended, the union warned it will discuss further strike actions on August 25th unless the company presents a revised proposal. The global hunt for critical minerals is ramping up as nations push to break free from dominant Chinese supply chains. And amid this push, a Korean tungsten mine is re-emerging as a key global partner. Our Kim Yo-jong takes us there.
Blasting takes place in the dark as geologists and workers move in and out. This is Sangdong Mine in southern Gangwon-do province, one of the world's largest tungsten mines. Some 4.7 kilometers of tunnels lie beneath the site, where there are an estimated 58 million tons of reserves. Tungsten is invisible to the naked eye, but under UV light in the dark, it becomes visible in a distinctive blue. Sangdong had closed its doors amid competition from cheaper Chinese tungsten. But more than 3 decades later, the mine has reopened with full-scale commercial production. Annual output stands at around 2,300 tons, with processing capacity set to double in phases.
Tungsten deposits here have an average grade of about 0.43%. That's about 3 times the global average, which allows for stable production over the long term.
Tungsten is key to industries from defense and semiconductors to aerospace. Demand has surged for high-performance chips, while the US-Iran war has further strained global supplies. Chinese export controls are adding to the squeeze. The country produces around 80% of the world's tungsten, but supplies have fallen sharply since Beijing restricted exports of critical minerals last year, citing national security. Tungsten prices have soared since then. With critical minerals emerging as a new geopolitical weapon, Washington is racing to cut its reliance on China and diversify supplies. That is putting Sangdong in the spotlight as a key source of non-Chinese tungsten, with most of its output contracted for the U.S.
Building a value chain to develop and supply more tungsten is strategically important for Korea amid China's export controls. This would serve as an alternative supply source for our allies. Such cooperation could later act as a bargaining card for Korea to secure critical resources when needed.
For now, Sangdong handles the initial stages of production, including mining and concentrating. Operator Almonte Korea Tungsten plans additional facilities nearby as plans for downstream processing gain pace. Kim Yo-jong, Arirang News, 영월.
More than 100 companies and research institutions gathered in a fair at Cheongju province here in South Korea to showcase next-generation energy technologies and highlight the latest energy innovations. Our Kim So-young reports.
Solar panels, hydrogen-powered vehicles, and energy storage systems fill an exhibition hall. Visitors and industry experts are here to see how this technology could work for their own businesses. This is the New Energy Fair Osong 2026 held in Cheongju, where more than 100 companies and institutions presented their latest innovations.
It looks like an ordinary transformer, but it can automatically detect problems inside the inverter.
The fair also featured the signing of an MOU to promote hydrothermal energy generated from dams across the region. Multiple seminars on hydrogen and renewable energy were also held throughout the event. Cheongbuk-do province says it plans to expand its role in the solar, hydrogen, and energy storage sectors with an eye on boosting the local economy.
We already rely on traditional energy, but hydrothermal power could significantly raise our province's energy self-sufficiency.
Through this fair, Cheongbuk-do province has laid the groundwork for its next energy chapter, hoping that it will power the region's growth for years to come. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
The fermentation and aging periods for soybean paste can now be dramatically reduced without compromising its flavor. The secret lies in a specifically developed soybean paste starter and aged soy sauce. Our Cha Yoon-kyung has the details.
Soybeans are steamed in a large pressure cooker. The resulting meju, or fermented soybean blocks, are much thinner than conventional ones. By adding a specially developed soybean paste starter, The fermentation period can be shortened from around 60 days to just 3 to 6 days. Once the meju is fully fermented, it is aged for just 2 months. The key to this shorter aging process is aged soy sauce made anew every year from boiled soybeans. While fermented meju is usually soaked in brine, this meju is instead immersed in the aged soy sauce. The producer uses only environmentally friendly soybeans grown domestically in Cheongju, Jeollabuk-do province.
We plan to drive growth in the agri-food industry by identifying agricultural venture companies that produce high-value added traditional foods using domestically grown products such as soybeans.
The company's soybean paste soup meal kits have received positive reviews from customers. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
This is the world now. The United States Navy has sent a fresh aircraft carrier to the Middle East to relieve a ship whose crew has been at sea for months supporting the Iran war. U.S. Central Command said on Thursday that the USS George Washington arrived in the region on Wednesday. It takes over from the USS Abraham Lincoln, which had gone more than 250 days at sea without a break. Reports of life on the USS Abraham Lincoln described crew stress, poor mental health, and shortages of food and hygiene products. The USS George Washington came from Asia, leaving that region without an American carrier strike group. In Nigeria, an overloaded boat has capsized, killing at least 50 people. Most of the dead are children. The boat went down on Thursday in Nigeria's northwest Sokoto state. An official with the National Waterways Authority said about 40 children were among the dead. A state lawmaker said most of those on board were between 10 and 15 years old. He said 16 people were rescued. Residents said the boat was carrying farm owners and laborers hired to harvest rice. In Peru, a magnitude 6.7 earthquake struck the central Andes on Thursday. The United States Geological Authority said there were no initial reports of casualties or damage. The quake was deep at 99 kilometers below the surface. The head of Peru's Geophysical Institute said on Thursday that the depth prevented major damage, so the earthquake caused no impact. Peru sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where 85% of the world's quakes happen. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan are moving back to the UK this month, 6 years after they gave up royal duties and left for the United States. A person close to the couple said they will move from California to somewhere outside London. Their children, 7-year-old Archie and 5-year-old Lilibet, will go to school in Britain. They will not live in a royal residence and will remain non-working royals. King Charles only learned of the move on Sunday. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Most regions will have a wet Friday. Rain that started in the capital area in Gangwon-do province will continue through tomorrow morning. So Seoul and the surrounding area could receive 10 to 60 millimeters, while Gangwon-do and parts of Cheongju provinces could see 5 to 40 millimeters through tomorrow. So while Central Korea deals with rain, sudden showers will develop in southern parts of Korea. Some areas could receive up to 50 millimeters with locally heavy rain possible. But the rain is not doing much to ease the heat in the south. Many areas of the southern provinces are still under heat wave alerts. For a closer look, Daegu and Busan will be soaring to 33 degrees Celsius, Gwangju at 35 degrees, but Seoul will be getting up to 30 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow afternoon, showers will develop across inland areas. And although Sunday marks Cheongsju, traditionally associated with the end of summer heat, temperatures will still be above normal.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.